and welcome back. We are live here at the AWS Summit in Sydney in the middle of the expo hall. My name is Nikki. We're going to be talking about a really awesome startup building on AWS today. But before we do, introductions please.
Hi, I'm Jesse Meek, founder and CEO of CodeLingo.
I'm Matt, I work on the startup team here in Australia.
And I'm MJ, I'm in training and certification.
Okay, so Jesse, what is CodeLingo? Tell us what you're building on AWS, and how are you changing developers' lives?
Yeah, sure. So CodeLingo helps development teams write better code faster. It finds and fixes bugs, it reviews pull requests, and it writes contributor docs. We're less interested in industry standards, and we're more interested in project-specific standards. So essentially, unlocking the tacit knowledge of a team and allowing that team to drive to continuous higher standards.
It's really awesome.
Yeah.
So basically, that you submit your code through CodeLingo, and basically would code review it against tenants, is that correctly?
Yeah, sure.
Can you explain how the tenants work, or how actually CodeLingo is able to take the code and analyze it, and then make sure that a proper code review takes place?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I might just take a quick step back to give you the context. I've got a slide up.
Yeah, let's
so if you think about analyzing code, the two standard ways of doing that is linters. Linters essentially enforce language generic issues. And then on the other end of the scale, you've got peer reviews. This is a human reading thousands of lines of code to try to find very project-specific issues.
Yep. So
the linters are very scalable but general, the human very specific but unscalable. There's a sweet spot in the middle that CodeLingo addresses. This is an area of codifiable knowledge and practices to a team and organization that's generic enough to warrant automation, but specific enough that you won't find it in off-the-shelf solutions. So that's really what we're drilling in with CodeLingo.
So cool. It's just so cool. Sorry. Okay, so my question would be, can any company use this and basically write their own tenants so that codifiable knowledge that it's analyzing against is really theirs?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's largely the point, right? So we want to have a very light touch. A tenant itself, so sorry, taking a step back, that how we encode that knowledge is we write them in tenants, which then enable automation of common development workflows.
Right.
I've got another slide which actually shows a complete tenant. So essentially you can see down the bottom that this is a...
so that's written in YAML?
In YAML with a query language, and that query language just makes it very quick and easy to encode domain-specific patterns to do with code. So you've got your core pattern that you're interested in, and then you've got a set of common development workflows. For example, generating docs or automating automating pull requests.
What's an example of a pattern that a company might set?
Oh gosh, look, there's heaps.
There's tons.
Yeah, what's really interesting is if you think about what's really fascinating about CodeLingo is it's giving you an extra return on investment, ROI, for bug hunting. So we deal with a lot of companies that have very severe bugs. They've cost them millions when things go wrong for their customers.
Yeah.
It's taken them days to actually track down where that bug came from. And if you think about what are your current options on an ROI after you've been through all of that pain. You can write a unit test to ensure that that local area of code won't fail again.
Yep.
You can write an integration test, which essentially says, if the user follows this happy path that I've thought of, they won't hit this bug again. Currently without CodeLingo, there's no way to get a broader ROI on all of that investment of defining that pattern that allowed that bug to happen in the first place.
Make sure it doesn't happen again.
Run it across your whole infrastructure and make sure it hasn't happened again. So we're doing this again and again, learning from people's past pain and giving them extra ROI and finding essentially latent possibilities for the same types of bugs just sitting there waiting to be triggered. So it's super exciting, yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Really awesome.
So Jesse, it's not just us who's excited to have you here today. Audience is going crazy as well. So I've got a couple of questions coming through for you already.
Cool.
And I think Matt will be able to help you out with this.
Yep.
So what is CodeLingo's value to a startup?
Value to a startup.
And that's from Kick You Now.
Okay, that's cool. So that's really interesting. So there's a few dimensions to the value that CodeLingo offers. Number one, so you can think, essentially what we're doing is we're encoding the tacit knowledge of the team. And it's a bit of an insurance policy for that team. So startups are very volatile. You're going to have people coming in and going out. And you might lose your lead engineer. And that could be the end of a company when it's very small and very fragile. If you can extract and automate as much of that boilerplate around the tacit knowledge of your lead engineer, it actually gives you a bit of a security policy to make those early startups more robust.
Perfect.
CodeLingo is how we do stuff. And in a startup, how we do stuff is so important, as Jesse just said. Mate, you're obviously passionate about this. Tell us how you got going.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so it's It's from a personal pain. I've been a developer most of my life, all of my professional career. Worked with a whole bunch of teams, founders of YouTube, Canonical, the company behind Ubuntu. Throughout my career, an interesting tension always arose. As the project matured, tension arose between spending time on delivering new value and spending time on just maintaining the complexity of the system and making sure it doesn't fall apart. This really came to a head when I was working for in a team on Canonical. I don't know how I ended up on the team, but there was, I was surrounded by superstars. There was about 30 developers, really good funding, like the world was our oyster. And yet we kind of hit these same kind of knowledge transfer issues. The lead engineer was like, I'm not going to accept these pull requests because you're not following the standards that I'm asking. And I just thought, like, this is ridiculous. Like, engineers are good, we're good at scaling up everything except ourselves. And I think as the time has come where the developer has to become a first order problem. Like, we need to look at the developer and start to unlock the full potential of the developer directly.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So what languages does CodeLingo support right now?
Yeah, sure, great question. So it actually takes about 3 days on average for us to implement support for a new language. We're a very small team and we're trying to avoid boiling the ocean. So essentially we allow ourselves to be driven by those languages that have the highest demand. Right now that's Go, PHP, Python, C#, C++, JavaScript's on the horizon. But again, it's very tempting to just kind of go big, big, big.
Yeah,
we have to keep it really small and tight. Yeah.
Totally know that battle inside of startup.
So I've just had a live audience question come through for you, Jesse.
Yep.
What AWS service do you value the most as a startup? And that's from Jenny Hess.
Oh wow, that's really interesting.
It's a great question.
Good question.
Yeah. So our whole infrastructure is actually underpinned by Kubernetes, and we use Helm charts to orchestrate the usual suspects like EC2, persistent volumes, all that kind of jazz. So it's a really interesting question. If I had to choose one AWS service, I think it's a false dichotomy. I think the whole picture would fall apart. Like I think that's the beauty about the vision of Amazon is that it provides you the ecosystem to provide a scalable solution. You take one piece out of that, it's such a finely tuned ecosystem, the whole thing falls apart.
Awesome.
So you're running on Kubernetes, I think you said briefly. Is there anything else in your architecture that is important to CodeLingo's existence?
Yeah, heaps of stuff. So look, like we're using Ingress, the load balancers, the S3s. It's all the usual suspects.
S3.
Yeah.
Another one.
For sure. Yeah. So on the back end, it's actually a DAG. So it's a directed acyclic graph.
Okay.
Essentially, we see the whole world in terms of vertices and edges, and we just do extract, transform, load of. We just look at your code, and we just basically translate that into a graph, and then execute queries against that, which gives us the insights.
And the
to these
graph
patterns.
has to match one of the tenants, basically, and
Yeah,
that's how
that's
you
right.
know whether or not it fits the.
Yeah, so our vision is actually to broaden out. We're starting with code, but we actually have prototypes that are addressing the Git layer, the VCS layer behind it, and actually also the runtime layer. So our future vision is that we essentially turn the full software stack into a big data problem. Once you do that, then you can apply all sorts of really exciting solutions that you're seeing in the big data space that haven't made their way into the code analysis space and unlocking the true potential of a development team.
It's incredible. It's like super exciting. Were you going to say something?
Nope.
Okay, so are you guys fundraising? Because I really want in on this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we've been working under the radar, trying to understand exactly where our fit is. We've just recently launched on GitHub about 2 months ago. Since then, we've been experiencing really exciting growth. So about 50% week-on-week growth. And that's going to be driving the backbone of the seed round. So this is open. So please come and contact me if you're interested in jumping in on an early stage company.
Me.
So I've got a question coming through for you, Matt.
Oh, cool.
So maybe you can tie this into the relationship that you have with Jesse.
Yep.
What does the AWS Startup Team do?
So the startup teams are, I think, is one of the best teams in the company. So we're a global team, and our entire job is to support startups from they get going right through to when they list or get acquired. We help via our Activate program, which is a global support program, which comes with solution architecture, training, and credits for the platform. Definitely good for the training. Jesse is part of our Activate program, and our Activate program is distributed by our partners. The ecosystem players like co-working spaces, accelerators, incubators, VCs, family offices, private equity. So it goes all the way through the ecosystem of high growth tech startups.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I just want to jump in there and say that you guys are doing something right. So we actually started on a different cloud, and we got brought into you guys because of your customer support. It's just above and beyond the competition. So you're doing that's literally why we're here.
It's really awesome to hear that Matt's doing his job.
The whole team.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So how can individual developers or companies sign up for CodeLingo?
Yeah, for sure. So the simplest way is just to find us on the GitHub Marketplace, install us.
I just posted the link.
Sweet, awesome, fantastic. So from there, it'll automatically analyze your repository. It will suggest a few default tenant bundles. From there, just get going. Again, the true power of it gets unlocked when you really start to embrace the full model of CodeLingo and start to encode the test knowledge of your team drive forwards continuous high standards.
Awesome.
So another live audience question. Can you think of 5 things you would like future startups to focus on when they want to Syra?
When they want to...
Want to give up? When they want to give up. So.
Oh, interesting.
So what happens when it gets hard, Jesse?
Great question.
Yeah, so support's super important. The founder path is really unique. Almost by definition, there's not many people that have gone before you, and you need, if you're going to be an effective founder in the industry, you need to have a bit of that resilience to go, not just do what people are telling you to do. So it's an odd balance. You're going to be circled by lots of advice, and you need to know who to ignore, who to listen to, and you also need an inner circle that you can really confide to. Often as a founder, you're like the pinnacle of the company. You need to seem strong and solid for everyone, and so you definitely need a bit of a safe space where you can just go like, man, today I was just feeling like shit.
Is there something specific that gets you by, like a teddy bear or your favorite brand of ramen or wine, perhaps?
Yeah, sure, maybe all of the above. Yeah, no, nothing specific. I've really valued...
Mine was wine.
Wine, okay, yeah. Really valued friends, so just don't lose your friends on the journey, and just make sure that you keep
really
those close connections. Yeah.
I guess something that I see a lot is make sure you're focusing on the right thing. You mentioned don't boil the ocean.
Right.
With something like CodeLingo specifically that can do a lot of stuff for a lot of language, and you get into the nuances of what customers want. They can pull you down different rabbit holes, and we've been down a few rabbit holes with CodeLingo, and it's really important as an early stage startup to really focus on the thing that you do.
Yep.
And sometimes that's saying no to people, and it's quite difficult, especially if you get a big enterprise that comes along and says, can you solve our one very specific problem that you'd never be able to use for anyone else?
Yeah, totally.
And it gets exciting, but when you're building a platform like CodeLingo is, to be able to go, no, this is what we do, and we do it well.
Yeah.
We have one final question from chat we have time for. Mew9 says, what are your future monetization plans?
Yeah.
Will it always be free for personal projects and open source stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are definitely committed to a free tier. Essentially, we're exploring different pricing models, but at this stage, what we're trying to do is establish a really strong product market fit, get strong feedback that we're actually delivering value, what we're building actually makes sense to developers. We're saving their time. Yeah, absolutely. CodeLingo as a company commits to always have a free tier, and we're looking at other, extra pricing models on top of that to add extra value.
That's really awesome. Thank you guys both so much for joining us today. If nobody has any more questions, I think we'll wrap up here, and we'll be back with more content very soon. Thank you guys again.
Cheers. Cool, thank you.
Bye.